There's rich, and then there's yacht rich. The kind of rich where your walls are Italian marble, your air is filtered, your helicopter lands on your roof, and your boat costs more than most skyscrapers. You look out at the ocean and see peace. But for the world's billionaires, the sea is not peaceful. It's a battlefield, not of missiles and armies, but of prestige, size, secrecy, and dominance. This is the hidden war between the ultra-rich, the one fought not in boardrooms or markets, but across the open sea, where money builds kingdoms that float. In this war, every yacht tells a story. Some are symbols of old money, dynasties flexing their legacy. Others are the new titans, built from code, silicon, and stock options. And at the very top, the rare few who rule the ocean. Their ships are more than yachts. They're private cities, designed to disappear from radar and from public scrutiny. If you trace the rise of the modern billionaire, you'll find that their first real trophy isn't a mansion. It's a yacht. Because on land there are taxes, headlines, laws. But at sea, there are none. Every era of wealth has had its symbols. Castles, private jets, penthouses in the sky. But in the 21st century, the ultimate symbol of power floats. And right now, those floating empires are growing bigger, more secret, and more competitive than ever. Because in a hidden corner of the luxury world, the richest men on Earth are locked in an unspoken arms race. They're not trying to build the biggest ship. They're trying to build the last one, the one that outshines them all. But before we dive into the billion-dollar behemoths of today, we need to understand how this obsession began and how the world's most powerful men turned the oceans into their playground. It starts quietly, decades ago, not in Silicon Valley, but in Europe, where oil money met old aristocracy and the world's first true super yachts were born. It starts in silence. A calm sea, a clear horizon, and somewhere between Monaco and Saint-Tropez, a new kind of power takes shape, not in gold or land, but in steel, teak, and glass. Long before the modern billionaire, there was the tycoon, and long before private jets, there were yachts, massive, glistening trophies meant to whisper one thing: I have arrived. The early icons came from Europe's old elite, oil barons, shipping magnates, and royalty. Their yachts weren't about travel, they were about presence. Anchored off the Côte d'Azur, they didn't move much. They didn't need to. The name alone carried power. But everything changed in the 1990s. Because one man, a Russian named Roman Abramovich, decided that the sea could be his throne. When Abramovich commissioned Eclipse, the world gasped. It wasn't just a yacht. It was a fortress disguised as a palace. Over 530 feet long, 2 helicopter pads, bulletproof glass, a missile defense system, a mini-submarine, and a rumored anti-paparazzi shield that could jam cameras. Its cost? Somewhere between $600 million and $1 billion, depending on who you ask. And in the world of the rich, where everything is public and nothing is private, the mystery was the flex. Eclipse didn't just say, "I'm rich." It said, "I'm untouchable." After Abramovich, the floodgates opened. The ocean became the new Monaco, and the super yacht arms race began. Oil billionaires, tech founders, royals, sheikhs, they all wanted one. But not just any yacht. Theirs had to be bigger, faster, more secret. Suddenly, shipyards in Germany, the Netherlands, and Norway were booked for decades ahead. Each new vessel came with whispers, rumors of hidden panic rooms, escaped submarines, yachts with satellite links straight to private intelligence networks. The tabloids called them floating cities. The engineers called them impossible. But the billionaires just called them home. Because what's the point of having $200 billion if you can't escape it? That's where Jeff Bezos enters the picture. Bezos, the founder of Amazon, isn't just building a yacht. He's building a legend. His masterpiece, Koru, is a sail-assisted super yacht over 417 feet long, sleek, minimalist, and eerily quiet. It's designed not to shout wealth, but to radiate control. Even its name, Koru, comes from the Maori word for new beginnings, a spiral symbolizing life, growth, and rebirth. But here's the thing, Bezos didn't stop at one. Behind Koru sails a second vessel, a $75 million shadow yacht named Abeona, carrying helicopters, jet skis, and support staff. It's not just luxury, it's logistics. Because even at sea, power moves with an entourage. Meanwhile, across the world, another titan rules the waves, Sheikh Khalifa bin Zayed Al Nahyan, the late president of the United Arab Emirates. His yacht, Azzam, stretches 590 feet, the longest private yacht on Earth. A floating kingdom built by Lursen Yachts, capable of speeds over 30 knots. Inside, it's a blend of Arabian luxury and military precision. Designers say its interiors are so lavish, they were never fully photographed. At sea, Azzam moves like a myth, rarely docked, rarely seen, often surrounded by secrecy. And then there's Dilbar, the pride of Russian billionaire Alisher Usmanov. Dilbar isn't the longest, but it's the heaviest, displacing over 15,000 tons, more than a naval destroyer. It boasts a swimming pool longer than most city apartments and a crew of nearly 100. When it's at sea, satellites track it like a moving nation. But there's one more ship that remains the crown jewel of conspiracy, the ghost yacht known as Scheherazade. No one knows for sure who owns it. Theories link it to the Kremlin, to secret trusts, to shell companies so deep that even investigators hit dead ends. When it was docked in Italy, locals called it the Phantom, a $700 million palace on water, lights glowing, engines silent, security tighter than a warship. These are not just toys. They're statements of sovereignty. Each yacht tells the same story in a different dialect of power that wants no passport, wealth that doesn't need a country, and men who see the ocean not as water, but as territory. Because here's the truth no one says out loud. At a certain level of wealth, the borders of nations become suggestions, and the only true freedom left is the kind that floats. So when a billionaire commissions a yacht, he's not just ordering a boat, he's building an escape plan, a fortress, a declaration, that if the world collapses tomorrow, he'll still have his island, one that moves. But in this secret oceanic arms race, the yachts are getting smarter, more self-sufficient, more autonomous, and soon they won't just be symbols of wealth. They'll be symbols of power beyond the reach of any government. The ocean doesn't care who you are, but the men who command it, they care very much. Because every yacht is more than luxury, it's leverage. Behind closed decks and tinted glass, deals are made that never reach boardrooms. Yachts have hosted more negotiations than most think tanks. From oil contracts to political handshakes, the sea has become the only conference room without microphones. You think these ships are just for leisure? Number. They're mobile embassies. They carry their own laws, their own surveillance, and their own silence. Security firms specializing in yacht counter-espionage have quietly tripled their business in the last decade. Encrypted satellite uplinks, signal jammers, private drone defense. A billionaire can't risk being overheard, not when the next trillion-dollar deal might be whispered over a bottle of vintage wine, somewhere between Capri and Cannes. And then there's data. Most of these yachts are wired like small intelligence bases. They track weather patterns, nearby vessels, radar signatures, and, more quietly, the digital footprints of anyone approaching too close. Because at this level, privacy isn't luxury, it's survival. Take the rumor surrounding Dilbar. When sanctions hit its owner, global authorities scrambled to locate it. They found themselves up against one of the most sophisticated navigation cloaking systems ever installed on a civilian vessel. It wasn't built to evade storms, it was built to evade governments. The pattern repeats again and again. A yacht disappears from radar, reappears under a different flag, operated by a shell company headquartered in the Cayman Islands. managed by another in Malta and insured by a firm in Zurich. A web of ownership so dense that tracing it becomes a geopolitical puzzle. And yet, to the men behind it all, this complexity is the point. It's not about hiding from justice. It's about proving they've risen above it. Think about it. What is power if not the ability to float above consequences? When ordinary people vacation, they post photos. When billionaires vacation, they disappear. But the most unsettling question isn't where they go. It's what they bring with them. Inside these ships, some hold art collections worth hundreds of millions. Picassos, Monets, Basquiats, guarded by biometric vaults. Others carry prototypes of unreleased technology, experimental batteries, AI servers, private communication systems. For certain tech founders, their yachts are floating R&D labs, shielded from corporate espionage and government oversight. Some even say that a few of these vessels have clean rooms, sterile compartments designed for secret engineering work in international waters. Whether it's myth or truth, one thing is certain. The future is being written where there are no borders. And the more secret the technology, the more extravagant the vessel that guards it. When Jeff Bezos sails Koru, it's not just leisure, it's symbolism. A man who conquered digital commerce, now commanding physical freedom. Surrounded by encrypted servers, satellite networks, and data links connecting him to every corner of his empire. Each billionaire builds his yacht as an avatar of his philosophy. Abramovich's Eclipse, defense and intimidation. Bezos's Koru, precision and control. Al Nahyan's Azzam, speed and sovereignty. Usmanov's Dilbar, abundance and secrecy. Each ship is a mirror. And the reflections tell us something profound. That wealth, when it grows large enough, stops buying comfort and starts buying isolation. But isolation breeds something else too, paranoia. That's why the richest yachts are designed for siege. Some can sail for months without docking, generating their own water, fuel, and power. They're self-contained nations, ready to outlast any crisis. The question that whispers through marinas from Dubai to Monaco isn't who owns that yacht anymore. It's what are they preparing for? Because every ship at sea tells a story of tomorrow, and some of those stories sound less like leisure and more like contingency plans. As the world becomes more uncertain, the rich build their own certainty. Floating fortresses that can vanish when cities fall silent, ships that can move faster than borders can close, and crews trained not just to serve champagne, but to survive lockdowns, blackouts, and global collapse. To most of us, the sea is distance. To them, it's freedom. But freedom, when hoarded, turns into empire. And the new empires of the 21st century no longer rise from land. They rise from water. The ocean is changing. The waves that once carried steel and oil now carry something new, electricity, algorithms, and ambition. The billion-dollar yacht is evolving again, because even empires must adapt. The next generation of super yachts no longer burn fuel like warships. They breathe silently, powered by hybrid hydrogen engines, solar wings, and AI navigation. They glide without smoke, ghosts across the sea. Builders call them clean. Owners call them timeless. But make no mistake, these vessels are not about saving the planet. They're about ensuring that their owners can keep sailing it forever. Shipyards in Germany and the Netherlands now compete in secret bids for the newest class of vessels, ones that can run for months without docking, map the ocean floor in real time, and even generate their own micro-weather systems. A yacht that can control its climate, its radar signature, and its privacy. That's not transportation anymore. That's evolution. And the men commissioning them aren't just billionaires. They're dynasties, tech founders, petro royalty, AI investors, people who no longer see the sea as escape, but as continuation. Because what comes after wealth? Control. And after control, legacy. Take the designs being whispered about in Monte Carlo's private lounges, concepts that defy imagination. yachts with built-in data centers, floating galleries where NFT art projects shimmer on digital walls, subdecks lined with coral farms built to claim environmental virtue while anchoring power. One prototype even includes an onboard cryogenic chamber, a billionaire's attempt to outrun time itself. But what truly unites these projects isn't technology, it's obsession. Every new build begins with the same unspoken question. What can be created that no one else on Earth can replicate? That's what makes it viral. That's what makes it myth. Because the superyacht has become more than a status symbol. It's a story. A stage on which a billionaire writes his own legend, far from the noise of cities, where every sunset feels like ownership of the horizon. And as the world below struggles, their ships grow taller, sleeker, more silent. In harbors from St Barts to the Maldives, locals call them the floating planets. Because when they pass by, even the light seems to bend. Each one is a sermon about humanity's most ancient temptation, the dream to own what can never truly be owned. The ocean, freedom, time itself. But here's the paradox the rich can't escape. The higher they rise, the more their towers float alone. Inside these billion-dollar palaces are boardrooms without laughter, dining halls without guests, theaters without applause. Because isolation, wrapped in gold, is still isolation. Every luxury has a shadow, and every ocean, no matter how private, eventually turns to storm. Still, the race continues. Each new vessel more elaborate, more expensive, more impossible than the last. And somewhere in this endless contest, the meaning of wealth itself dissolves, replaced by something else, permanence. Because these yachts aren't really built for their owners. They're built for the idea of them, to outlast the man, to carry the myth. So the next time you see one cutting across the horizon, polished metal glowing like a blade against the sun, remember, that ship isn't just sailing through water. It's sailing through history. And maybe it's sailing toward a future where the rich don't just rule from the land. They rule from the sea. If you made it this far, you already see the world differently. You understand that behind every symbol of wealth lies a story of power, fear, and obsession. So if you want to keep uncovering the hidden empires of luxury and the secrets the ultra-rich don't want told, subscribe to Luxury Throne right now. Because here, we don't just watch luxury, we decode it. If you could step aboard one of these floating palaces, which would you choose? The fortress, the phantom, or the paradise? And the best answers might just inspire our next deep dive.